Yo, what's up? This is Jacoby from Papa Roach.
This is Ryan Leaf.
This is Rich Roll, and you're listening to Sober Guy Radio.
Yo, what's up? Thank you for tuning in today. Thanks to Humans for bringing us in. Thanks to you for supporting the show. Always good to be here today. Have you checked out the I Am Sober app? If not, you can go to thatsoberguy.com right now. You can download it there for free. I Am Sober is helping thousands of dudes and chicks just like you get sober and stay sober. Best of all, the app is free. You can get an overview of your sobriety milestones. You can see how much money you saved. I think I've saved like over $30,000 not blowing it on drugs, cocaine, booze. I don't do it anymore. And I track it with the I Am Sober app. And you also get daily notifications, help keep you on track, help keep you headed in the right direction. You can get it. I already said it, thatsoberguy.com. You got the iTunes App Store link there, the Google Play Store link there. You can also go directly to the iamsoberapp.com website, and you can download it there for free. So check it out. It's a great tool. It's not going to save your ass and pull you out of the depths of anything. You're going to have to put the work in to do that, but it is a great tool to add to your toolbox of tools to help keep you sober. So check it out there, iamsoberapp.com. That's iamsoberapp.com. All right, today's guest is Todd Zalkins, and super pumped to talk to Todd today. Todd is an interventionist and state-certified drug and alcohol counselor. His story became the subject of the award-winning documentary film, The Long Way Back, the story of Todd Zman Zalkins. And it premiered at multiple film festivals just a few months back, I think, and the film was picked up for worldwide distribution. It's available for release on Amazon, iTunes, and DVD. We'll make sure we put all the links in the show notes. And I personally watched this documentary as soon as it was sent over to me. And man, there's a couple times in there that I laughed my ass off, and I cried a little bit in it too, because there's some very emotional and you know, you guys know that listen to the show, I'm about as real as it gets. I always try to live by that code, and this documentary was very real, with comedy, with some heartfelt stuff. Great thing. So we're going to talk about that today. Todd, thanks for coming on the show today, man. I'm super pumped to have you. How are you?
Man, I'm doing well, Shane. Thank you so much for taking the time to have me, man.
Absolutely. I'm doing good, man. Good. You have a shitload of projects going on, I noticed, too. I had a little list of them here. You got the Z-Man podcast. You have Dying for Triplicate. That's a book you put out. You have the Knowell Family Foundation, which I want to get into, too. And then, of course, the Long Way Back film documentary about your time there. Where do we start here? Let's kind of jump into you. Give us a little background about yourself. I think you're probably one of the dudes that's done the most drugs that I've ever had the chance to speak to that's still alive. So we may get into that a little bit too. Okay,
well, you tell me where you want to start. You want to talk about the breaking out the abacus and calculating the amount of narcotics? I think we could stay away from that. But I mean, recovery saved my life, man. Yeah. And you know, I'm forever thankful to be on this side of the grass. You know, it took a long time, you know, to get here, to get rid of something that was killing me on a daily basis. And you know, I never thought that I would, I guess, be some type of example for young men and young women, or maybe some older guys and older women too. But nor did I ever think I'd become an interventionist or a public speaker. You know, I wanted to not die, and I wanted to not have my mom get that phone call that her son died of drug addiction.
Yeah. You're from Long Beach, California. I'm a big music guy myself, musician. I've always loved music. I've had a thing for it since I was a kid. growing up listening to Willie Nelson and Johnny Cash and Journey and Phil Collins. I mean, all kinds of stuff growing up. And as I got older, started getting into the punk rock scene. And we had, from Vacaville, California, we had Papa Roach, a well-known band who came out of here. So we grew up going to shows and underground shows. And of course, who doesn't know about Sublime? With your roots coming out of Long Beach, take us back to the early days for you. And what that was like just as Todd, and then how did you kind of go into some of those years with Sublime?
You know, growing up here in Long Beach, we had a special scene, growing up in the Belmont Shore area. It's a little beach town. It's kind of gotten crazier as the years have gone on. We have a little bit more of a corporate setting in the shore area now, but back in the day, in the late 70s, early 80s, the punk rock scene was more underground. It was backyard keg parties. It was a thing where you really knew everybody, and we had this thing where a lot of people played music, and a lot of my friends jammed, and there's a shitload of really good players. Yeah. And so these offshoots of just guys jamming in garages, and early on, we had just this handful of really freaking awesome bands. Before Sublime, we had these punk bands like the Falling Idols. Of course, TSOL was the leader of the pack, and Tex and the Horseheads, and Rhino 39 and bands like that. But my relationship with the guys, if you want to talk about the guys in Sublime, we grew up in the same neighborhood. We grew up going to these parties of kind of being in awe of these guys that were killing it at the ages of 18, 19. You got to remember, we're only 15 and 16. Yeah. But Bud and those guys, they're already playing music. They're already playing, and so next thing you know, they're playing the backyard parties and recording and putting on wax, as they say. Yeah. One thing leads to another, and they're playing bigger parties and playing outside of the city. And next thing you know, they're selling over 100,000 units out of the trunk of their car of 40 of Freedom. It was really special though early on. Yeah. Like super special. Like you felt like you're a part of something, Yeah, yeah. Kind of
as that scene or that community is being creative. Is that being created? Is that kind of what you're referring to as you kind of watch it evolve? There's something there that you can't ever get back.
Well, as far as it being a capsule in time, it was just, if you were there, you were there. And it's funny, Mike Mart, who is a gentleman who actually records my podcast, he's a first-generation punker. He's a guy who was in Tex and the Horseheads, and he's kind of I consider him one of the most fabulous musicians to ever come from here. And so he's first generation. Then there's second generation guys, and there's third and fourth generation guys. And so to be a part of to be even on the outskirts of the second generation, or maybe even third, I think if you're just from around here, it's kind of in your fiber a little bit. Yeah. Whether or not you're even in a band, if you're just hanging around, you're a part of it. Yeah. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I went to it's totally off the topic. I don't know why I just thought of this, but I lived down in Torrance for a while after I had gotten out of high school, and we took a trip one night out to Long Beach. The only time I've been to Long Beach before. I don't know where in the hell we were, but we ended up in the hood, and I know I was the only white dude around there, and I thought for sure there was dudes shooting dice, and we went to go buy some pot out there. I thought I was gonna get shot for sure, and we go up to the door, and I'm thinking there's going to be some straight OG dude there that answers the door to sell us some pot, and it's this little nerdy ass white kid like playing video games in his room. But pretty comedy. The only time I've been to Long Beach. I know I'm totally getting us off topic here, but Long Beach is a cool spot though, right? I mean, what else? You have a lot of different cultural things out there too, and things that are I guess have kind of set the tone. And birthed a lot of the music scene, and then a lot of other things that have come out of there too.
Yeah, well, first off, Shane, to go back to your horrible incident for a quick second, you should have just called me.
I should have. Damn it.
I would have straightened you out quick and avoided you almost getting killed.
Yes.
But Long Beach is a massive city. I kind of comment about that in the film. There's a ton of different. There's every culture that you can imagine here, and you can also be in a good neighborhood here, and within a split second, be like, holy shit, where am I?
Really,
within a couple of eye blinks. You got to kind of watch your ass around here. I mean, I live in a pretty decent neighborhood here, but I shit you not, just this morning, I look outside my window, there's a dude, I swear to God, he wasn't overdosing, but his car is running. He's passed out in the alley.
Shit.
Driving, head on a steering wheel, drive a nice car.
Yeah.
And I had to call 911.
Wow.
Now, it turns out the dude wasn't ODing, but you think to yourself, this shit goes down here.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, sure.
So, we got a lot going on in this town, and you got to kind of watch your ass.
So it's cool though for you, I'm sure, in having your roots there. Now you're coming up and you're getting to do recovery work, and I know you're doing it all over the place, but I'm sure it starts in your own community. You're giving back. You're getting to do these these different events and speaking events and actually really reach out to all kinds of people out there. What has that been like for you in coming from the life of addiction that you lived before?
The outside of course, sponsoring guys in the program, which of course is one of the greatest things you can ever do in our program. Yeah. On a different level, on a community level, I think that taking this to a different level by way of the film and its message is something that it fills me up with so much joy. Yeah. And for instance, 2 weeks ago, Jim Knowell and I and his daughter Kelly were at a community event. We showed the film, and Jim Knowell gave a great talk. I had a chance to talk, and you've got all these parents who are just, they're looking for answers, and we're there just to share our experience, and it's one of those things that we feel like we're connecting with people, and to further that connection, Shane, what's really, really super important to me is what we're doing with the Knowell Family Foundation. And for those of you listening, you can go to the KnowellFamilyFoundation.org, and it's a nonprofit foundation. And what it's going to be is it's a small facility. Next year we're going to open it, and it's dedicated to helping opiate addicted male musicians. It's going to be the only facility of its kind in the world. And the little place it's going to be called Bradley's House.
That's awesome.
And that's what's kind of being spawned as a result of us just doing this work of the film. And it's like, what? Let's have a legacy that lasts as a result of the pain that we've all gone through, the pain that Jim Knowell and his family have gone through. Let's have something that stands. And by the way, this treatment center is not about making any money. This is to help dudes who have no money, who have no health insurance, and we have to do benefit shows. We're grinding right now, dude. We're grinding just to open the doors, man. And so, it's about giving back on some level to help that guy who literally who's got an ounce of willingness, who's jamming bass, drums, guitar, whatever the hell he's doing, like Brad was doing, who wants a second chance.
Yeah, man, that's just legit. I can't wait to see it when you guys open up, and just that, it's just amazing, man. And I'm sure there is a grind in getting that amount of, something together. There's a lot of work that goes into it, I know. So we'll do everything we can to help promote and help spread the word about that for sure. Do you think that there's almost or possibly a turning point coming for people, musicians, artists? I mean, hopefully on a large scale, just whoever the hell you are at that too. But if we're just talking about people that are creative artists, maybe there's a turning point where, in circumstances like Brad's, how many times has that happened to other musicians out there too? Are we seeing something where people are starting to get hip to the game and say, wait a minute, like, this shit's not cool. Like, being a dope fiend is not cool. And like, I want to live a positive life. Like, I want to be a musician. I want to be, I want to do what I love for a living, and I'm not going to go down that path. And obviously we're all trying to get there, and that's why we do the work that we do, I think. But do you kind of feel that there's maybe a shift going down that road?
I think what we have is, I think we have a split. I think that there's a ton of artists out there who live by a code of they're just healthy in general.
Yeah.
And I actually think this is kind of the way it's always been. We have a lot of artists out there, whether they're musicians, actors, and actresses. There's just a lot of people out there who are healthy by nature.
Yeah.
But with this thing, you're asking a really good question. But with this topic out there that's out there really, really now, it's that elephant in the living room that really is being talked about right now. I don't know if that's something that's even so much of a deterrent, but we're losing people all the time, Shane. And I just think that, but you're right. No, it's no longer cool to be drooling on stage. And those days of artists freaking bailing, the old time, you remember Axl Rose used to show up 4 hours to a show. That shit ain't cool no more.
Yeah.
You can't be pulling, that bullshit does not work for fans anymore.
Yeah.
You can't be sitting there waiting for your headlining act, starting at 9, showing up at 1:30 a.m. It doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
That doesn't work. But as far as the artists, are they now kind of go, oh, that's scary? I think that I still think there's a massive problem in the industry. Yeah. I don't know who that guy was. Who was that emo rapper who just...
Oh, yeah, the Lil Peep or whatever?
Lil Peep. And
I don't know much about him, but I saw that he
died of a Xanax overdose. Yeah. I think for every one of those guys, Shane, there's 100 more of these guys that we don't know about, for sure, that are still chewing the morphine pills, whatever they're doing, and it's just going on, bro. Yeah. And I don't want to lose one more of them, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think it helps that it's glamorized to some extent, and these youngsters who coming out listening to this music. And I don't mean to sound like old crusty bastard Shane, who's 36 now. When I was in my 20s, even my teens, I was listening to Two Live Crew and like Too Short, and I was listening to all that stuff that back then would a lot of the same stuff. But I guess as you get older, you start figuring out like, man, this stuff's just not. It's not cool. You know what I mean? It's not cool to be talking about that kind of stuff, and let alone doing it, because it kills people.
Yeah, man, that's a really I like what you just said, and and the shit just isn't sexy anymore. I see, because I remember when I was like in my early 20s, especially mid 20s, it's like, God, doing this stuff, it's kind of sexy for a minute. It's like, you see the drugs on the table, you see the nice bottle of liquor. It's like, it looks kind of sexy for a second, and then, of course, in the morning, and there's nothing sexy about it. But now when I see people who are older, who are really in the disease, or they're really partying, their eyes look really kind of screwed, there's nothing sexy about these people.
Yeah.
Nothing attractive about a man or a woman who's just taxed. So
I don't want to glorify and we don't have to get into war stories. You can tell as little or as much as you want. The floor is yours. But I think it is important to go back in your in your specific journey and talk about kind of what you went through and the depths of addiction that really brought you to almost death. And then, because it's amazing to where you are today. Can you kind of take us back a little bit and tell us what that was like?
Yeah, you mean as far as kind of like what brought me in, or kind of like the progressiveness of it?
Yeah, I think the progressiveness of it, and then when you were at the peak of your addiction, I know you you had owned a very successful insurance business, and you were really thriving at the same time. And correct me if I'm wrong, but it was almost like you were living like this double life. You were super successful, but you were also like a full-blown drug addict who was just fucking running and gunning like pedal to the metal nonstop.
Yeah. Okay. Well, as most of us know who are listening, I think to bottom line it, for a while, drugs and alcohol worked for us, and for a number of years, I'm going to say from like first off, I drank and used for 24 years. Out of those 24 years, I popped, snorted, and chewed prescription narcotics for almost 17 years. And so from 1990, I'm going to say, till about 1998 or 1999, so for like 8 or 9 years, those prescription drugs worked. I functioned fairly well. Okay.
Yeah.
I went from Vicodin to a hell of a lot of Norco. And then when I discovered OxyContin in like 97 or 98, it changed the game for me. And so when I got into the oxys, I really thought when I took that drug, I just thought I was being hugged by God, man. And I'm not a religious guy. And at one point I was, for years I was taking 400 oxys a month, 80 milligrams, so like 16 to 18 of those things a day. And I was chewing them. And this is at the time when you could take off the strip off the coating. And I was chewing them, snorting them, and then of course chewing those things. And on top of that, 12 to 14 Norcos a day, 3 fentanyls, 3 800 microgram fentanyl sticks. And this is for years.
And you were still functioning while you were doing this. I mean, to an extent.
No. For a few years I managed to for a few years I functioned, and I kid you not, man, for like about 2 solid years, it was literally relegated to my home, like in my pajamas, just watching terrible shows relating to solving fucking forensic murder, drooling fucking granola and yogurt. Every now and then when I had the energy, I had 3 cars. One of them, don't ask me why, I'm such a jack off. Fourth Carrera that I drove, I think, a total of 20 times. And I put the top down, my face all fucking sweaty, and I'm smoking a big cigar, and I'm driving to Paula Casino with a bunch of freaking money and just loaded with oxys, drive out to the casino, and I'd drive back swerving all over the highway. And so, what happened was, Shane is the doctor ultimately, one of the doctors that was prescribing me 240 oxys. He says, Todd, he goes, I know you have another doctor. Oh. And I'm going to give you one warning. If you don't lose that doctor, you're done. And he ultimately found out. He cut me off. And so, if you're a drug addict and you can't find it, you're going to lose your mind. And of course, the other doctor had a cash doctor, all this shit, man. And so and the drug stopped working on top of it, man. And when it happens, I'm scrambling, I'm finding more dealers, and I got morphine pills, and I'm smoking big balls of heroin, and I'm like $8,000 a month on pills, and yeah, dude. And then of course the end, I'll fast forward to the end, was I was literally seeing people in bushes, and my heart was skipping beats. I was calling 911 to report that I'm seeing a guy in a bush that I'm going to kill, and I'm just delusional.
Yeah,
that was my moment, bro, where my head was fractured inside. Like nothing was.
Well, and I know from the movie, you went through an extremely extensive recovery process. I think there was a point in there. I can't remember if it was an interview I watched with you, if it was in the movie now, but where the doctor said, like, basically, I've never really seen anything like this. Like, you should be dead, pretty much. I'm
sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that was it. Go ahead.
My detox. Today I'm thankful for what I went through. I wasn't thankful then.
Yeah.
My physical detox was just radical. It lasted a long time. I didn't sleep for 44 days, and they couldn't get me to sleep, no matter how much medications they gave me. 800 milligrams of Seroquel, a drug that's really meant to help you get to sleep, and they give me 10 times normal dose, and so, and I shook for months and months. But shit, dude, I was on these, almost 2 decades of this drug, these opiates, right? And so my head. Here's the thing: my body was craving sleep, as you can well imagine.
Yeah.
But have you used opiates before, Shane?
I have.
Okay, so you know that when you stop using them, you really do want to sleep. But see, when we've been on opiates, we've slept forever. It's the opposite for a meth addict. They sleep for a fucking month when they get up. For the opiate addict, our brain is just, we are literally, it does not shut off when we stop using them. And on top of that, our skin discomfort and all these things we go through. So my experience was my skin just did not stop crawling for months. My irritation of the skin, was crazy, and my brain was so loud that I would lay in bed, but I just did not sleep for my first.
Yeah.
I didn't sleep until April 1st. So I checked in on February 16th. I didn't sleep until April 1st.
Well, I can remember too being you're almost like in a zombie-like state where you're having these dreams, like the weirdest, craziest dreams, but you're not asleep, but you are asleep at the same time. Like you said, your brain does not shut off; it just continues to go.
Yeah, I mean, people I'll think, well, no, you're not walking around all the time with your eyes. I would lay with my eyes closed for 20, 30 minutes, but you're not sleeping.
Yeah, you're
not getting REM sleep, and so I would just. Your whole world's just crumbling, you're just crumbling, and you're just, this is not happening. And your thoughts just are all over the place, and because you're not getting REM sleep, you're not dreaming, you're just living in a fucking nightmare, man.
So to get to the extent of where you're at, let's just say in those last 2 years too, when it was just at the peak, and I'm sure, actually, I'm not sure of anything. Let me just ask the damn question. How much did you were obviously very close with Bradley. For those who don't know, Bradley Knowell from Sublime passed away of a heroin overdose in Petaluma, California, right? Or after a show in Petaluma.
The last show was in Petaluma. He passed away in San Francisco.
In San Francisco. The previous show was in Petaluma. You guys were very close. Like how much do you think, or do you know, that affected you in that, in that aspect, in losing your friend and then continuing on the path that you were already on, but the excessiveness of it, I guess.
Yeah, when he passed away in May of '96, and so I was at the time 6 years into using pills, and of course I had always been drinking and doing cocaine, so I had the loss of him. I'll speak for myself. It affected me tremendously. Yeah. But I'll also say this: it affected everyone tremendously, and it was compounded even more by the knowledge of him trying to, make this phone call to me at 4 a.m. And I'm pretty sure it was like the last phone call he made. And what's funny is here's the thing, man, is that he wasn't calling to shoot dope with me because he knew that I didn't use needles.
Yeah.
He wasn't calling me for money. He had money. He wasn't calling me for heroin. He had heroin. I didn't have heroin. I wasn't using heroin at the time. And so it was, having, and you can probably relate to this, Shane, when we're drinking and using, we don't have a whole lot of quality coping skills. And so, so my coping mechanism was to, of course, I was tremendously sad and grief-stricken and despondent, like so many of us were, and I chose to completely go significantly deeper. And I was probably going to go deeper anyways because I was already addicted. Yeah. But this certainly was it cut very, very deep into my heart, and it was very. It was an extremely brutal time.
Yeah. I can only imagine, man. I'm sure that's not something anybody has to, wants to, should have to deal with. But you did, and you continue to do so. I'm sure that. Have you been able to work through that? Like, still, is that something you're still, even after all these years, having to work through, or where are you kind of at with that?
What's funny is that I'm really close to Papa Knowell, obviously, and this project has brought back a little bit more than I'd like, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because we're visiting it a lot, but I will say this: I actually this is actually the first time I'm sharing this publicly. So I'll share. I don't care. Sure. At about 10 months into the project, I actually had to do some work on a therapeutic level about the whole incident, some deeper level stuff, because I was starting to I treat with a therapist for my professional work, for my intervention work, and I trust this woman implicitly. And what was happening was I was really starting to kind of break I was exhausted from the film project, but I was really starting to, I guess, becoming increasingly more sad maybe over the event. And I was looking at some stuff that maybe I really hadn't truly visited, truly looked at through the, maybe there was some guilt I hadn't appropriately addressed. Yeah. And I thought that I had. And I actually I did several sessions with with her, and essentially what she said was it was unaddressed PTSD. And we did some heavy work behind it. And so I don't know if I'm answering, am I taking the long way to answer your question?
No, it's all good, man.
You asked me, am I still affected by it?
Well, I guess just, I mean, something of that magnitude, and that, something that can cause that much hurt, and like how that's got to be a long process to recover from that. And I guess kind of how are you still dealing with it? I mean,
let me answer that. I don't think any of us will ever fully recover from it. Yeah. And I think that I think I said this with the LA Times did an article recently, and I think that's the best way I can always say it is I think there will always be like a bruise on my heart.
Got it. Yeah.
It's like I think there's a bruise there. Before there was a really big open wound. I think some of it's healed a bit, but I think there's like you're still punched.
Sure.
You still I feel like Shane just kicked me in the chest a couple times. Yeah.
Well, and I think because there's kind of another reason I asked that too. Number one, to get to kind of hear your response, but number two, and we talked a little bit about this before we started recording, was in the film, Bradley's son is in there, and you have really been able to, to kind of guide him down his own path and really create a relationship with him as almost like an uncle and a recovery friend as well. How has that been for you? And do you feel like, there's almost like some redemption there in being able to be there for him, even though his father's not there?
Well, I've sure as hell fucked up his drinking for the rest.
That's a good thing, right?
I had a laugh with Papa Knowell and Janie Knowell the other day. I said, if anything else, man, I sure have. If that's the best I've done, man. So I often think about how hard it must be to be a young man his age to be getting sober, and I also think too about how hard it must be to be Bradley Knowell's son. There's so many people who like to they like to compare and all of these things. It must be hard to be. There's a lot of things that you often what's that old saying? You don't really know until you've walked a mile in someone's shoes.
Yeah.
So I sometimes overlooked that when I was doing a lot of my work with him, and I always need to remind myself that you got to put yourself in his shoes, and even though there's a lot for him to be grateful for, there's also a lot of, I think, pressure that you have to identify too.
Yeah.
And so he grew up with this. He really grew up with this thing where so many people loved him, and I think in some ways just overloved him. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
I'm saying some exterior people with not really truly knowing him.
I see. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, I think people, people from they looked at Brad as like this idol, this larger than life figure through his music and through what he accomplished in the time that he was creating. And I think what you're getting at, and correct me if I'm wrong, is people almost transferred that into his son, and being like the next generation or the product of that. Maybe is that kind of fair?
Yeah. At the end of the day, we have to remember that we're all human beings, and I've truly, in some ways, and you meet some really crazy people on the way, and that's what, fan stands for fanatical.
Oh yeah, sure.
You can take it to levels of, it's like, I knew Brad intimately, and I can understand the appreciation for his talents and his music and stuff like that. But behind closed doors, I also knew a lot of suffering.
Yeah.
Okay. There was suffering. There was some challenges there too. People fucking overlook that shit.
Oh yeah, yeah.
We're talking about a man who possessed what I consider one of the sweetest sounding voices I've ever heard, and that's not just because I loved him so much. It's just because he had this sweet, soulful voice, and he could play guitar like a mother, and on top of it all, he could blend chemically this music that was so original.
Oh yeah.
Nobody will ever be able to top that. Sorry. Good fucking luck.
I agree.
He was this magician, and so were his cohorts. He and Bud and Eric could really magically, make this collection of just wonderful music. Yeah. And but outside of that, you got to remember we're talking about human beings here. And so, when I'm dealing with Jacob, I think that there was a lot of pressure put on him from the get-go.
Yeah.
And I think it's a big deal for him to be sober just to begin with. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because he's a musician too, right? I mean, he's a great musician.
Jesus, dude. Have you heard him sing?
Yeah, I heard him on the I don't know if it was on the doc. I watched some YouTube videos too. It was one or the other, but yeah, he's a phenomenal singer. He's just great.
When we get off this thing, man, I'm going to get your mailing address. I'm going to ship you a couple of DVDs because we've got some bonus footage. You won't believe because we got I think 3 or 4 songs on the DVD that's got Jacob not only just on acoustic but then with his band. It'll bend your mind how well he sings, dude.
Oh yeah, that'd be awesome, man. I'd love that.
Absolutely, bro. Absolutely. But I'm really super proud, and on top of it all, the direction that he's taking as an artist, because he could easily just play the same style of his dad's music, and he's not. He's got a very unique sound with his band, and hell, he could drop it all off tomorrow and just talk to Eric and Bud, and they could form Sublime. He's good, bro.
And you know what else is really cool about that, Todd, is that, here he is, Jacob, and he's a musician. He's got this thing going on. He's sober. He's got a good. It sounds like he's got a great surrounding support group around him to help keep him on that humbleness we talked about earlier and stay on the right track. I'm not trying to put anything on the guy or anything, but he really does have an opportunity to do just what we were talking about earlier and spread that love and that hope and that support that you can do music and you can be sober and you can love it and you can actually be successful and do what you love and not have to touch a drug or a drop of alcohol to do that. And I think that is really, really cool.
Yeah, man. He could really, in fact, Papa Knowell and I have had that talk with him several times, in that he could be a part of a really serious wave of new generation artists. That's like not only can he be successful in his own right, standing on his own music and his own creativity, but sober. And also, if you think about what the legacy of his wonderfully talented father, who died of this disease, are you fucking kidding?
Oh yeah, unbelievable.
I mean, think about the power. Think about the powerful thread of that story. Here he is, a young man who's gotten sober, kicking aside those demons, lost his father. Think about the triumphant nature of that story.
Yeah,
it's huge. I mean, it's freaking. I mean, that's Hollywood. That's a story.
Yep. Dude. Maybe someday. You never know.
Right there, bro. Yeah. And I just want to sit on the sidelines and I want to root for him and certainly be there for him and just be there for him to support him.
So what's up with the Z-Man podcast, man? When did you launch that, and how's that going, man? You have some great guests on there. I got to catch a couple of them
man.
A week ago.
We started doing that, I think, in August, and we've been doing one a week. We've taken a couple of weeks off, and it's something that, by the way, you're doing a great job, man. You're good, Shane.
I've been doing it a while, man. I'm trying, man. I'm doing my best, man. I love learning and just getting better, man. That's all I can do,
I think that you're doing a great job as a freaking DJ podcast.
Oh man, it's fucking hilarious.
I think a lot from you as we speak.
Well, thank you.
I've been enjoying it a lot, man. In fact, it's one of those things that I feel it's a calling for me. I actually want to develop it. I want to grow it, and I find that I get a lot of joy in like how you're doing. What I like how you're doing, and let's just talk about this, is letting it go organically, and you don't force anything. I like the natural feel about how you run it, and it's kind of cool when you're doing it with someone. You just you kind of let them go, and they start to get off a little bit. You kind of reel them in, and people are interesting, and I like bringing on people who are really interesting. Who have stories, and so we've had some good people on, man. I believe in a few weeks we're going to have Mike McCready from Pearl Jam.
Oh, nice.
That's going to be sick. I got a very good buddy of mine who is extremely close with him. I've had the pleasure to surf with McCready a couple of years back, and he's just a really good dude. And man, we got some good stuff coming up here in the next weeks.
Yeah. Have you had Bob Forrest on?
Yeah. Well, it's funny you mentioned Bob Forrest. I haven't, and yet the gentleman who does our recording engineer, Mike Mart, does Bob Forrest's show.
Oh, nice.
And Mike Mart is also the former bandmate for Bob Forrest from Thelonious Monster.
Yes. He's a great guy. I just had a chance to have him on a couple episodes ago, 160 or something like that. Yeah, and he was great, man. He was hilarious, and I think that the reason I bring that up is, number one, to plug the show, of course, but also because you talked about interesting people and having people who are real on and who really don't give a fuck, who are just open to having a good conversation. And he's definitely one of those guys. And I'm with you in that. It's fun. And I almost equate doing these podcasts and having these conversations. It's great because we get to get a good message out there. We get to have a little bit of fun, but at the same time, I'm a musician too. One of my favorite things was always just to jam. Like, let's jam. Let's have a jam session. Let's see where the hell it goes. And this is like a different. It's like a cousin to that almost. I feel like in doing these. So I mean, I get to have a lot of fun doing them too. Yeah, man.
I'll tell you what would be epic, and I know it'd just be so tough to get. It'd be great to have some like Eminem on.
Oh.
And it would. The guy's got a few years sober now, and but it'd be so bitching, it'd just be bitching to have a guy like that on.
Oh yeah, and there's all kinds of guys like that I think about. Like, who's that?
He's just tough to get a hold of him.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. I didn't even hear about him for years until he put out that freestyle thing a couple of weeks back or whatever. But I didn't know if he was still working on projects or what.
I would love to. I actually, a buddy of mine in LA who's in a very high level music manager. He knows Eminem's manager, and I was going to get him the film.
Oh no shit! Oh, that'd be awesome, man. He'll love it. It's a great film, man.
Yeah, Eminem's deal. He fucking loved freaking prescription painkillers. That's what he's in recovery from.
Yep.
Eminem, if he gives it a chance to watch it, he'd be like, "Fuck this dude, fuck."
He'll be like,
meet this guy. You bring him to 8 Mile. Even though he doesn't have an 8 Mile, I don't think. I think he owns 8 Mile.
Yeah, I think he does, probably. Well, cool. What any other projects, any links you want to share with us other than the video? I know you can go to thelongwaybackfilm.com and get it there. What else are you working on, Todd?
Okay. The two most important things, again, number one is the KnowellFamilyFoundation.org. This next year we're going to have in just a few months we're going to have our first music benefit. We're still waiting for some dates. Publicity, we'll get behind that. Again, you guys, the KnowellFamilyFoundation.org. If you can, throw a couple of bucks. You guys check it out because we have the Bradley's House T-shirt, original artwork by Opie Ortiz. The guy did nice. All the tattoos and 40 ounces of freedom tattoos. Artwork. But the other thing is if you guys ever need a public speaker, I travel all over the country speaking about the film and about the message. And so you guys can check me out at toddzalkins.com. And again, toddzalkins.com, or follow me on Instagram at Todd Zalkins.
Cool, man. Last question for you, Todd, and then we'll wrap this thing up. Yeah. Someone out there struggling right now, maybe it's them, maybe it's a family member. They don't know what the hell to do. They don't know what to turn to. They're having a day today, man, and they're hearing this. What would you tell them?
Oh my gosh, I failed. And forgive me. I left that too. If you're struggling, there is hope. there is hope. In fact, that intangible thing of feeling that there is hope is the most important thing that I can ever offer to someone who has that thing called hopelessness. And if there's someone out there who's sick or suffering, please feel free to message me on my website at toddzalkins.com, because that's something that we do is help coordinate resources. And that's something that we take a great deal of pride and pleasure in doing, is directing people to get help. So forgive me for leaving that out. But there's absolutely hope. If a fool like me can somehow get sober, you guys can do it. And it's super important for you guys to know that there's a shot at getting well. And gosh darn it. And Shane, isn't that right?
That's right, baby. That's right. There's always hope. I love it. That's the first thing you started with. There's hope. So don't forget that there's hope. Don't ever give up. Todd Zman Zalkins, much appreciated, my friend. Thank you for coming on Sober Guy Radio. It's been a pleasure.